Good morning and welcome to KidNuz. I'm Tori. It's Tuesday, January 11th, 2022. And there's a new top dog in college football. The Georgia Bulldogs took down Alabama's Crimson Tide to claim the school's first national championship since 1980. Now, our other top story. There's been a court victory for tennis star Novak Djokovic, but this time in a court of law. On Monday, an Australian judge ordered the government to release him from hotel detention and restore his visa. Australia has very strict rules that require everyone who enters their borders to be vaccinated for COVID. But the Serbian athlete who is not vaccinated said he had COVID last month, so he was granted an exemption by Australia's Tennis Association and the state of Victoria, where the Australian Open will be played next week. However, federal border officials overruled that exemption when Djokovic landed in the country last week. Now he's free to go, but the saga may not be over just yet. The country's immigration minister says he may exercise his powers and cancel Djokovic's visa a second time. The Winter Olympics start in just over 3 weeks, and the host country, China, is taking no chances with COVID. The city of Xi'an, with 13 million people in the north-central part of the country, had a breakout of the virus and has been under strict lockdown for nearly 3 weeks. Some residents can't even go out for food, and promised food deliveries are not reliable. Even though this city is about 600 miles from the Olympic host city of Beijing, China has a firm zero-tolerance policy with the virus, and there is a tremendous amount of national pride and investment riding on the success of the Games. The Olympics are set to start February 4th and last for 2 weeks through February 20th. Plans have just been unveiled for the big Platinum Jubilee in the UK to mark the 70 years that Queen Elizabeth has served as Britain's monarch. Technically, she became queen on February 6, 1952, the day her father, King George VI, died. But she was formally crowned on June 2nd of that year, so most of the big celebrations will be held around that date. The main event is a big party and concert at Buckingham Palace, featuring some of the world's biggest entertainment stars, though none have been named yet. And there will be a special event that can include kids. Similar to the Great British Baking Show, there'll be a platinum pudding competition for anyone ages 8 and older to submit a pudding recipe dedicated to the Queen. 5 finalists will prepare their dishes before a panel of judges, and the winning treat will be served at Jubilee lunches in early June, all over the kingdom. Leonardo DiCaprio already has an Oscar, a BAFTA, and 3 Golden Globe Awards, but now he has a newly discovered tree named after him. The Euvaryoptis DiCaprio is about 12 feet tall and has clusters of yellow and green flowers on its trunk. It was recently discovered in an African forest that the actor and environmental activist played a role in helping to save. In 2020, DiCaprio drew attention to plans to allow logging in the Igbo forest in the country of Cameroon. This land is home to gorillas, elephants, and chimpanzees, and after DiCaprio posted about the situation on Twitter with the hashtag #SaveIgboForest, the government withdrew its permission to allow logging in that area. So an international group of scientists decided it would be a nice way to pay tribute to the actor by naming the tree species after him. Baseball history is about to be made. According to a report in The Athletic, Rachel Balkovec is set to become the first ever female manager in the minors. The 34-year-old former college softball player was hired by the Yankees a year ago as a full-time hitting coach and had previously worked as a strength and conditioning coach for the Cardinals and Astros organizations. She'll now take over the top job for the Yankees' Class A minor league team in Tampa. That's it for KidNuz. We want to say a big thank you to so many loyal listeners who generously made donations to our podcast at the end of the year, including several kids who saved up their allowance so kids all over the world can keep listening to our podcast for free. If you'd like to make a donation that's tax-deductible through our fiscal sponsor, Independent Arts and Media, please go to our website, www.kidnuz.org, and click on the blue Donate button at the top of the page. Now, the KidNuz quiz. Britain is planning Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee, which means she's been on the throne for how many years? 70. What actor just had a tree species named after him? Leonardo DiCaprio. What country is hosting the 2022 Winter Olympics, which begin in just 3 weeks? China. What baseball franchise is reportedly about to hire the first female team manager in the minors? The New York Yankees for their Class A team in Tampa. In our KidNuz Kicker, scientists have taught goldfish how to drive a car. The group of researchers at a university in Israel designed an experiment to see how well the little fish could navigate in conditions very different from their natural environment. They put a small fish tank on a device that could move forward and backward, as well as side to side, and the fish-operated vehicle, or FOV, would move in the direction that the goldfish was swimming. They put a pink target on a wall, and if the fish could get the FOV to touch the target, they'd be rewarded with some food. At first, it took the fish about half an hour to get to the target, but eventually they could complete the challenge in less than a minute. Before we go, we want to give a big KidNuz shout-out to some of our terrific teachers and their students. Mrs. Giannetta at Thiels Elementary in Thiels, New York. Mrs. Schrofer and her awesome learners at Jessie J. McCrae in Miami, Florida. In Texas, Mrs. Hurst at Flower Bluff Elementary in Corpus Christi, and Mrs. Johnson at All Saints Episcopal School in Tyler. And Mrs. Demrick and her class that loves learning and exploring at Holy Apostles School in New Berlin, Wisconsin. Thanks for listening. We hope you tune in for more KidNuz tomorrow morning.